The time is 6:15. Here is the news edited by Dilini Gunawardana, read by Victor Raj. Here are the headlines of the local news. The fifth session of the 9th Parliament will be declared open tomorrow. Japan assures assistance in establishing power supply of Sri Lankan hospitals using renewable energy. 10 billion rupees have been allocated for this year's elections. Plans are underway to establish 5 more free trade agreements by the end of the year. Light vehicle driving license will be issued for the hearing impaired community. Foreign news: Israel army storms a factory in occupied West Bank. Sports news: tennis. Nadal and Djokovic are set for Saudi Arabia men's tennis exhibition. Local news in detail. The fifth session of the 9th Parliament will be ceremonially declared open by President Ranil Wickremesinghe tomorrow. This was communicated by the Legislative Service Department of the Parliament last week, while announcing the business of the House of Parliament for the first sitting week of February 2024, as decided by political party leaders. Upon the arrival of the President, the proclamation proroguing the Parliament and summoning the meeting of Parliament will be read by the Secretary-General of Parliament. Then the President will address Parliament, after which the Parliament will be adjourned until 9:30 a.m. on 8th of February. Sri Lanka Parliament was prorogued with effect from midnight on 26 January, marking the closure of the fourth session of the 9th Parliament. The government of Japan has agreed to provide project support of around 2.8 billion rupees through the Japan International Cooperation Agency (JICA) for the provision of electricity facilities by establishing solar energy generation systems at Sri Jayawardhanapura General Hospital, Kurunegala Teaching Hospital and Ratnapura Teaching Hospital. The objectives of these projects are to reduce the use of non-renewable energy in the health sector, to increase the overall efficiency of the health service sector, and to promote sustainable development. Accordingly, the Cabinet of Ministers has approved the proposal regarding the implementation of this project presented by the President Ranil Wickremesinghe in his capacity as the Minister of Finance, Economic Stabilization and National Policies. Cabinet spokesman Minister Dr. Bandula Gunawardana today said that 10 billion rupees have been allocated for this year's elections. The minister made this remark while attending the Cabinet media conference held at the Government Information Department today. He also said that this money has been allocated only for the presidential and parliamentary elections to be held in the year 2024. Also, through a special gazette, the amendments for the elections to be submitted by the Commission of Inquiry will not be effective for the elections to be held this year and the elections to be held in the year 2025. It was further said that within the existing limited financial space of the government, the budget estimates for the year 2024 have allocated 10 billion rupees for conducting the election, and expenses related to the presidential election and the general election have to be managed within that provision. This news comes to you from the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation. Continuing with more local news, Minister Ali Sabri emphasized the importance of strengthening carrying forward the President's program to establish a free trade agreement with other countries. He expressed confidence that this is crucial to ensure Sri Lanka's economic stability and prevent future downturns. Speaking at a press briefing titled "Collective Path to the Stable Country" held at the President Media Centre today, Minister Sabri elaborated on the government's plans to establish free trade agreements with India, Indonesia, Malaysia, Vietnam and China by the end of 2024. He expressed optimism that these agreements will open up new markets for Sri Lankan businesses, contributing directly to the nation's economic growth. The minister noted the government's commitment for diversifying Sri Lanka's trade partnerships and strengthening its economic resilience. It was also highlighted that these agreements aim to create a more robust and sustainable economic foundation for the country by expanding access to new markets and promoting trade. The Cabinet of Ministers has approved a resolution to issue light vehicle driving license to hearing-impaired persons island-wide on a biannual renewal basis. Previously, a pilot project was carried out to issue light vehicle driving license to the hearing-impaired community in the Gampaha district in accordance with the Cabinet resolution on the 14th of November 2022. At the Cabinet meeting held yesterday, a proposal tabled by Minister Dr. Bandula Gunawardena received the approval to expand the project across the country. Based on the results of the pilot project and the recommendations provided by the Transport Secretary, chaired committee appointed for the implementation of the project. That ends local news.
The main news story is brought to you by Sinhala Mahatmya.
The Centre of Excellence at the Dambulla Stadium, a significant milestone in the National Cricket Development Pathway program aimed at providing equal opportunities to talented Sri Lankan cricketers, was inaugurated on Monday. The event, chaired by President Ranil Wickremesinghe, showcased its commitment to fostering the growth of cricket in the country. Unveiling the plaque and officially opening the centre, the President conducted an extensive observation tour. The facility is well equipped, featuring a hydrotherapy unit and the state-of-the-art medical centre dedicated to sports injury rehabilitation. That came to you on Main News Story.
The Main News Story was brought to you by Sinhala Mahatmya.
Moving on to Watchlight. Special changes are to be made to the public sector work shifts to facilitate the Muslim officers who are taking part in the prayers and religious activities in the view of the Ramadan season this year. This was communicated by way of a circular issued by the Minister of Public Administration, addressed to the ministerial secretaries, provincial chief secretaries, heads of departments and heads of state corporations and statutory boards earlier last week. The Ramadan season is set to begin on 12th March and end on 11th April. As such, the ministry has given instructions to make necessary arrangements to enable Muslim officers to take part in the prayers and religious activities during this period. That came to you on Watchlight.
Coming up, World News.
Headlines first. Israel army storms a factory in the occupied West Bank. Spanish farmers join EU peers' protests. Antarctica mysteries are to be mapped by robot plane. World News in detail. The Israeli forces have stormed a factory between the occupied West Bank towns of Sata and Karavat Bani Azan, located in the west of the city of the Salfit, and detained its workers. Local sources told the Wafa news agency that the Israeli forces stormed the tea factory and destroyed its machinery. Meanwhile, Israeli troops demolished a house and issued demolition notification for 6 others in a village in the north of the city of Jericho. Spanish farmers blocked traffic on some of the country's main highways on Tuesday, joining colleagues in other European countries protesting against high costs, bureaucracy and competition from the non-EU nations. Like colleagues in France, Belgium, Italy and Portugal, Spanish farmers are complaining about the increasing weight of European bureaucracy, low produce prices and rising costs. Over the past few days, blockades in France and Belgium have sometimes escalated into violent clashes with the police. A team of scientists and engineers have landed in Antarctica to test a drone that will help experts forecast the impact of climate change. The autonomous plane will map areas of the continent that have been out of bounds to research. It has been put to the test in extreme weather around Wales' highest peaks. Its first experiment will survey the mountains under an ice sheet to predict how quickly the ice could melt and feed into global sea level rise. The British Antarctic Survey developed the new drone with the UK company Windrazers. Scientists want to understand Antarctica better, but they are limited by the existing technology. To wrap up the world news, let's take a look at the headlines once again. Israel army storms a factory in occupied West Bank. Spanish farmers join EU peers protests. Antarctica mysteries are to be mapped by robot plane. That ends world news. Moving on to development news. The Sri Lanka Export Development Board, in collaboration with the Sri Lanka Apparel Sourcing Association, the Sri Lanka High Commission in the UK and the Joint Apparel Association Forum, is organising the Sourced Sri Lanka Textile and Apparel Roadshow, scheduled to take place June 2024 in London. This event, set to take place in early June in the city of London, will feature 50 exhibitors and is expected to attract a diverse audience of 1,000 foreign buyers and Sri Lankan trade visitors. The collaboration aims to establish new connections and strengthen existing ties with UK buyers in order to reach a historic milestone for Sri Lanka's apparel export industry. That came to you on Development News.
Moving on with sports news.
Tennis news. Saudi Arabia will host a new elite tennis exhibition featuring Novak Djokovic and Rafael Nadal and 3 other Grand Slam winners in October. The Six Kings Slam event will form part of the Saudi Cultural and Entertainment Festival Riyadh season. Major winners Carlos Alcaraz, Daniil Medvedev and Jannik Sinner will also line up, as well as Holger Rune. The event will take place during the ATP season, which already has a full schedule that month. That came to you on Sports News.
Go ekak thiyana youth eකට life එකේ change එකට නියමෙට set වෙන්න ඇස් වහගෙන දැකපු හින හැබැ කරන්න youth එකට නියමෙට set වෙන friendship එක මෙන්න.
The all new NSB Ithru Mithru account, NSB IAM, a plan for your dream.
Business News, sponsored by National Savings Bank, the safest place for your money.
Flying Ravana Adventure Park, the beacon of the adventure in Allah, celebrated its 5th anniversary recently. This momentous occasion signifies the park's commitment to delivering top-notch adventure experience aligned with global safety standards. That came to you on Business News.
Business News, sponsored by National Savings Bank, the safest place for your money.
Go ekak thiyana youth එකට life එකේ change එකට නියමෙට set වෙන්න ඇස් වහගෙන දැකපු හින හැබැ කරන්න youth එකට නියමෙට set වෙන friendship එක මෙන්න.
The all new NSB Ithru Mithru account, NSB IAM, a plan for your dream.
Moving on to economic news, Cathay Pacific Airways recommended recommenced passenger flight operations to Sri Lanka recently using an Airbus 330 and 300 aircraft. According to their new flight schedule, flight operations will be carried out 3 days a week, including Tuesday, Thursday and Saturday. The airline had temporarily stopped the flight operations in March 2020 due to the global pandemic situation. That ends economic news.
Weather report.
Mainly fair weather will prevail over the island. There is a possibility of ground frost at some places in the Nuwara district during the early hours of the morning. Misty conditions can be expected at some places in the central, Sabaragamuwa, western and Nuwara provinces and in the Gol and Mathura districts during the morning. That ends the weather report. To wrap up the evening news on Radio Sri Lanka, let's take a look at the headlines once again. The 5th session of the 9th Parliament will be declared open tomorrow. Japan assures assistance in stabilizing power supply of Sri Lankan hospitals using renewable energy. 10 billion rupees have been allocated for this year's elections. Plans are underway to establish 5 more free trade agreements by the end of the year. Light vehicle driving license will be issued for the hearing impaired community. Foreign news: Israel army storms a factory in the occupied West Bank. Sports news: tennis. Nadal and Djokovic are set for Saudi Arabia men's tennis exhibition. With that, we wrap up the evening news on Radio Sri Lanka. Back to my good friend and yours, Ramesh Peris.
Thank you, Victor, and that was Victor Raj with the main news bulletin, and whilst wishing you a pleasant evening, have a safe journey back home. You're tuned to Radio Sri Lanka. The time is just coming up to 31 minutes past 6.